Welcome back to Books with AR, Chapter 570, Zither Music. Scenes from the past flashed through Wang Lin's brain. This process was very slow. Wang Lin slowly sorted through his memories as he sat inside the courtyard. The memories of him successfully using the celestial slaughter art played slowly in his mind as he looked for similarities between them. After a long time, Wang Lin let out a sigh. After carefully looking through all the times he successfully created slaughter energy, it seemed like they all happened by chance, and there was nothing in common between them. Although, if there is one thing, on the day I killed Li Muwan, there was something strange. At that moment, I acted out of anger and was able to create a strand of slaughter energy. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, but then dimmed once more. However, this doesn't make any sense because there were strands of slaughter energy created when I was completely calm. There was also some slaughter energy created from demon soldiers, but as to which specific soldiers they were, it is impossible to tell. Wang Lin pondered for a long time, but he still couldn't find anything, and his brows gradually furrowed. Cultivating the celestial slaughter art is one of the key reasons I entered this place. I learned this spell to use it against Tuolsen. Tuolsen is very strong, so I will need a lot to go against him. Now that I have the blood soul pills, I have a much better chance of surviving with these two combined. However, I only have a limited amount of blood soul pills, so my priority is still this celestial slaughter art. Wang Lin pondered. He had been cultivating the celestial slaughter art for several years now, and creating the first strand of slaughter energy meant that he had reached the first stage. However, in order to master the spell, the difficulty was too high. I feel like there are some mysteries about the celestial slaughter art, but the amount I control is too little to test. Wang Lin raised his right hand, and 5 strands of gray gas moved between his fingers. Only 5 strands? Even counting the one sealing Yao Shi Shui, it is only 6 strands. Wang Lin let out a sigh. He hasn't been able to see through the celestial slaughter art. He was still quite confused about how the slaughter energy was produced. He thought of many reasons, but each of those reasons only applied to one situation. It looks like I need to do a lot of tests and deductions to have a chance to understand the mysteries of the celestial slaughter art. Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and a killing intent emitted from his eyes. He pondered a little before spreading out his divine sense and finding the 2 sergeants responsible for his living conditions behind the fake mountain. The 2 of them feared Wang Lin's spell from the bottom of their hearts, so they didn't dare to stay near Wang Lin. But the Lord's order was something they had to follow, so they decided to guard the entrance to the courtyard and didn't allow anyone to enter. Wang Lin's divine sense swept past the 2 sergeants and sent out a divine message. Shortly after, the 2 sergeants walked into the courtyard. They stopped 3 feet from Wang Lin and respectfully said, "Greetings, Vice General Wang." Wang Lin calmly said, "I'm going out. The 2 of you lead the way." The 2 of them were startled, but they quickly nodded. Wang Lin immediately moved forward several feet. The 2 sergeants almost immediately followed, but one hesitated for a bit before respectfully asking, "Vice General Wang, should we prepare a war horse?" "No need." In a flash, Wang Lin moved around the fake mountain and left the courtyard. The 3 of them left the Mo Mansion with Wang Lin in front. The Mo Mansion was on the eastern corner of Hong City and was relatively quiet. He casually walked along the street. Wang Lin didn't walk very fast. He looked around and gradually made his way to the main street of Hong City. There was a river nearby, along with many people, and shops filled the sides of the street. It was very lively. Bursts of noise slowly drifted over as men and women walked on the street. The clothing in Demon Spirit Land was open-minded, especially the women's clothing. Not only were they colorful, but they revealed a large amount of skin and were very pleasing to the eyes. Everything before him caused Wang Lin's tense mood from the last few days to relax. He walked the streets as if he was immortal, and the celestial spiritual energy inside his body slowly hid itself like a river drying up. Along the way, Wang Lin would sometimes stop outside a shop. Sometimes he would enter, and sometimes he would just leave. But the amount of time he stayed was always very short. He was like a passerby as he slowly walked through this foreign city. Wang Lin's appearance wasn't handsome, but because he was a cultivator, he gave off a very refined temperament. As a result, the more open-minded women among the crowd would sometimes place their gazes on Wang Lin as they passed by. Wang Lin looked like a defenseless scholar with his white robe. As for the two sergeants behind him, in the view of the public, they looked like typical guards. However, there was still an aura about Wang Lin that was very different from this place, so there was no way for him to truly belong here. As a result, a faint feeling of sadness spread out from him. In the pedestrians, there would be pairs of men and women talking and laughing at each other. Compared to them, Wang Lin's figure was very lonely. As he walked among the crowd, the surrounding noise seemed to be part of another world. The pairs of men and women seemed to belong in another time and space. Nothing before him had the slightest hint of familiarity or connection to him. An indefinable feeling appeared in Wang Lin's heart, and he let out a sigh. This road was long, but he didn't want to continue walking down it anymore. The day was getting late, and before the sky was completely dark, a ray of starlight suddenly appeared in the sky. Too many unimaginable things happened in the demon spirit land. No one asked where the starlight or moonlight came from. That wasn't important. What was important is that this starlight, along with the Zither music, had touched the memories Wang Lin had sealed away. The starlight imprinted in Wang Lin's eyes, and along with the Zither music gradually drifting away, caused a feeling to slowly condense in his heart. This was a feeling of loneliness, and it stayed in his heart for a long time. The Zither music became softer and softer as Wang Lin raised his hand to touch between his brows. It was as if he was touching Li Muwan inside the heaven-defying bad, and muttered, "Wanger An, we still meet once more. This is my promise to you." The boat slowly left, and the figure of that woman also disappeared. At the moment the music almost completely disappeared, the woman seemed to notice something and turned around. She looked at the riverside in the distance, but it was too dark to see. Still, in this darkness, she seemed to see a lonely figure slowly walking away. On the boat, the woman let out a sigh and began to move her hand, as sad music played once more and filled the river. Although there was light on the boat, to her everything was always dark, whether it was day or night. Her yake-like hand moved in the darkness, and the laughter that came from the boat was quickly shattered by her zither music. She sat the bow of the boat, and there was no light in her eyes, but at this moment she was like a lotus flower blooming in the mud. However, this was a bloom that no one could understand, and no one paid attention to. The zither music still echoed throughout the area, but no one was seriously listening. Even if there was someone listening seriously, she couldn't see. Chapter 571, Unyielding. Wang Lin left the river and slowly walked in the night with the two sergeants following him. The two sergeants both looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. In their view, Wang Lin had spent most of the time strolling the city and then staring at the river in a daze. The sky was now dark, but this person was still slowly walking down the street. During the night, Hong City was lit up by lights as if it was a city without night. As Wang Lin slowly walked on the road, his gaze fell on a dark area in the distance. There were many large buildings there, and the entire area had a depressing atmosphere. This aura was filled with death and resentment. One of the sergeants followed Wang Lin's gaze and whispered, "That is one of the 4 great prisons of the capital, Hong Prison." "Hong Prison," Wang Lin nodded. The sergeant explained, "Hong Prison is filled with felons and is well guarded. It is impossible for one to enter or exit without a token." Wang Lin carefully looked at this Hong Prison. He had already noticed that place before because it contains several powerful demonic spiritual energies, no weaker than Mo Lihai. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin walked toward the Mo mansion. After returning to the Mo mansion, Wang Lin went straight to Mo Lihai's residence. Mo Lihai was cultivating, and when Wang Lin opened the door, he opened his eyes. "I want to go to Hong Prison. Does Brother Mo have a way?" Mo Lihai was startled. He looked at Wang Lin but didn't ask for the reason. Instead pondered for a bit and said, "There are some difficulties." Wang Lin frowned and said, "Then forget it." Mo Lihai faintly smiled and said, "How long do you want to stay there?" Wang Lin said, "About 1 month." Mo Lihai's eyes narrowed and he said, "Cultivating?" Wang Lin nodded at Mo Lihai and said, "I need to kill to train my spell, and if I were to do that here in the city, it would cause unnecessary trouble." With that, Wang Lin added, "If I can succeed, then my ability to help you will increase." Mo Lihai stood up, then he stared at Wang Lin and asked, word for word, "Are you sure?" Wang Lin didn't waste time as he waved his hand and 5 strands of slaughter energy appeared. They took the form of 5 dragons and charged at Mo Lihai like lightning. Mo Lihai laughed and threw a punch. There was a sound of force pushing through the air and the 5 dragons collapsed. But Mo Lihai's smile disappeared and he revealed a strange expression before retreating 3 steps. The shattered gray gas reformed into the 5 dragons, and a thick slaughter aura spread out and immediately surrounded the entire Mo mansion. All of the soldiers inside the mansion were alarmed by this and rushed over. At the same time, these 5 strands of slaughter energy charged at Mo Lihai. His eyes lit up and he threw another punch. The 5 strands of slaughter energy dodged his punch and aimed at his chest. The slaughter energy suddenly closed in but was stopped by an invisible force 7 inches away from Mo Lihai's body and was forced back. Even so, the screen of demonic spiritual energy before Mo Lihai also shook violently. Wang Lin slowly said, "If I had more than 1,000 strands, could you still block it so easily?" Mo Lihai's eyes lit up. This was not the first time he had seen the slaughter energy. Compared to the last 2 times, it was much more powerful this time. He decisively said, "1 month is too long for me to do, but 7 days is no problem. Hong Prison has tens of thousands of felons, so 7 days should be enough for you to cultivate. Wait for me, and I'll have an entry letter for you in 3 days." Wang Lin nodded, then he left the room. Mo Lihai revealed a pondering expression. After a long time, he muttered, "I indeed can't underestimate this Wang Lin. It looks like exchanging that 13's life for his help was the right thing to do." Ignoring the power of that palm, just the power of those great gas strands filled with killing intent is extremely abnormal. With only 5 strands that aren't even at full power, he was able to cause my demonic armor to shake. It is even sharper than some demonic swords. This is not the most important thing. There is something mysterious about that gray gas that can affect the life force in my body. If there were more than 1,000 strands of that gray gas, it would be very dangerous. It is best not to make an enemy of Wang Lin and maintain our current relationship. He pondered a bit before leaving the room and working to get Wang Lin access to Hong Prison. Wang Lin did not return to his room, but he sat in the lotus position in the courtyard. Although the surroundings were completely quiet, there was still faint Zen music in his ears. Although this Zen music was faint, it had its unique charms that did not disappear. Wang Lin didn't cultivate tonight. He didn't even think about the senile slaughter art at all. He just quietly sat there under the starlight, listening to the Zen music in his heart. His figure created a long shadow from the moonlight. This shadow looked exceptionally bleak. Merely a lonely shadow. A jar of high-quality wine from ancient Demon City was placed next to Wang Lin. He would occasionally pick up the jar and take a drink. The bleakness of his shadow gradually affected his body. His loneliness seemed to fuse with the moonlight that imprinted on his body and soul. I, Wang Lin, began learning Dao at the age of 16, but I have long forgotten exactly how long I have cultivated for. Wang Lin picked up the jar and took a big jump. The wine leaked out from the corner of his mouth and dripped on his clothes. Wang Lin looked at the starlight in the sky and revealed a hint of loneliness. Cultivators walk against the heavens and are destined to be forever lonely. There was no sound, but Wang Lin could still faintly hear the Zen music. He wiped the wine from the corner of his mouth and muttered, "Being lonely for life gives one the heart to seek Dao. But how many people can truly savor this feeling of loneliness? Just like this wine, it is spicy when it enters the mouth, but then it turns into warmth once it enters the body." Under the starlight and moonlight, a solitary shadow was drinking wine and contemplating life. I don't know how those cultivators who have cultivated for over 10,000 years endured those 10,000 years. But I know that if one doesn't have at least a tiny bit of emotion, they are only cultivating their self-created Tao and not the Tao of the heavens. The heavens and earth are inhumane. Cultivating is about going against the heavens, but if a cultivator is also heartless, then they are also inhumane. Using an inhumane heart to cultivate the heavens' inhumane Tao, how can that be considered going against the heavens? That is merely following the will of the heavens. From ancient times, those that followed the will of the heavens were favored by the heavens, but in truth, they were merely insects. My Dai does not follow the will of the heavens. I follow my heart to walk against the heavens. I don't seek to be immortal. I seek to get rid of my status as an insect. That is what it means to rebel. Wang Lin drank all the wine in the jar in one gulp and then threw it. The jar shattered when it landed, then Wang Lin touched between his eyebrows and leaned to the side. The bleakness in his eyes slowly disappeared. The moonlight slowly disappeared, and the sun gradually rose as Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes. Tonight, he was drunk. He was drunk from the wine and emotion. At the moment he awakened, everything that happened last night was buried deep in his heart and sealed in a place that could not be touched. 3 days of time passed by in a flash. In those 3 days, Wang Lin didn't cultivate. Instead, he would leave the Mo mansion every morning and wait by the riverside for that short period of time when the Zen music would pass by. That sad Zen music flowed through his mind, piercing through those sealed memories and entering deep into his heart. While listening to the Zen music and drinking the wine the sergeants brought him, Wang Lin was completely immersed in the moment and gained some enlightenment. The woman on the boat didn't know that there was someone seriously listening to her Zen music in those 3 days. She just knew that whenever she passed by that spot, her sadness in her heart would increase, and that sadness entered her hand and escaped through her music. During these 3 days, Wang Lin was very peaceful. He distanced himself from conflict and slaughter. He forgot about the danger of Tosin. He forgot about his agreement with Mo Lihai and his own hope for reaching the ascendant stage. With the Zen music and wine accompanying him, he experienced a short baptism for his heart. He never tried to see what the woman looked like. Just her figure and Zen music was enough. If it wasn't for Mo Lihai having already settled the matter for Wang Lin to enter Hong Prison, he would have continued to sit there and cleanse his heart. He didn't know how long he would have stayed there, perhaps until the strings on the Zen broke and it no longer produced any music. Wang Lin withdrew himself from the Zen music, he stood up, and watched the boat gradually leave. At this moment, the woman on the boat suddenly turned around to look at the riverside. Although everything before her was still dark, the figure of that man leaving appeared in her eyes. A calm voice came from beside the woman. "Ming Xuan, what are you looking at?" The Zen music suddenly stopped. The woman turned around and lowered her head. Then her jade-like hands floated above the Zen strings and trembled slightly. To her, his voice represented the heavens and an irresistible fate. "Your Zen music is too sad, so the guests want you to change." The voice was calm, but it was also spoken in a way that meant she could not refuse. The woman pondered and then began to play the Zen. The Zen music suddenly changed to that of a spring march, and a cheerful sound filled the boat and river. "Very good. In the future, play like this." The voice from before came once more. The cheerful Zen music spread out, and although the music was joyful, if one listened closely, they would be able to tell that it wasn't joyful at all, but a silent cry. This cry was filled with sadness and pain. The best way to describe this was a forced smile. The music slowly filled the boat and matched the sound of the laughter, but it never fused with it. There was a powerful bitterness hidden behind this forced smile. This bitterness was very well hidden by the Zither music, and Ming Xuan knew that no one but her could understand. As the boat drifted away, so did the music, leaving behind only the ripples caused by the boat. The ripples slowly spread to the two sides of the river. Chapter 572. Celestial Slaughter Art. 1. The happy music with deep sadness entered Wang Lin's ears. It caused him to pause for a moment, but he didn't turn around and continued to walk away. It was not midnight, but the moon hung in the sky, and the moonlight covered Sky Demon City like a thin silk sheet. 2 figures appeared outside the Mo mansion, and both disappeared in a flash of smoke. They charged toward Hong Prison. Both of them were very fast as they flew over various buildings and streets of Hong City and soon arrived outside Hong Prison. From a distance, the killing intent and resentment in this place was monstrous. It was like a demonic flame that burned in the night sky. The 2 figures from the Mo mansion revealed themselves outside Hong Prison. These 2 were Mo Lihai and Wang Lin. The moment the 2 of them appeared, the huge black iron door before them suddenly opened a small crack. A grim-looking hunchback man walked out from this gap. He looked at the 2 of them, and without a word he waved his hand before going back inside. Wang Lin's eyes squinted unnoticeably. The grim-looking hunchback man's cultivation level was the same as Mo Lihai's. They both had cultivation equal to peak late-stage soul transformation cultivators. Mo Lihai took a step forward and moved like lightning through the gap. Wang Lin casually followed behind him. The grim-looking hunchback man examined Wang Lin and asked, "Is this the person Brother Mo talked about?" Mo Lihai nodded and said, "He is. The rest will depend on Brother Xu." The man named Xu nodded and said, "You can leave. I'll take him inside." Mo Lihai arrived next to Wang Lin and whispered, "Brother Wang, take care. I hope your cultivation is successful." With that, he took a step and disappeared. The man named Xu looked at Wang Lin and asked, "What is your name?" Wang Lin. Wang Lin. Wang Lin's voice was very calm. The man named Xu didn't speak more. He just turned around and walked into Hong Prison. Wang Lin followed the man, and his steps were very steady. The deeper they went, the more intense the killing intent became. The gray-robed man seemed to enjoy the aura very much. He secretly looked at Wang Lin and was very surprised to find Wang Lin so calm. Then he thought that if Mo Lihai was willing to spend this much, this person must have something extraordinary about him. If he were to scout any more, it would be inappropriate. This staircase was very long. After a long time, the 2 of them arrived at the end. The end was very creepy. It was like a giant cage that had been divided up into thousands of separate cages. Waves of shouting and roars along with countless curses echoed within the area. This sound was too loud. If it was a normal person, their ears would immediately ring endlessly from the noise. The man named Xu was already used to all this. He said, in a gloomy tone, "All of you, quiet." After he said that, all the sounds from the cells stopped, and an impressive aura slowly formed. There was a black house at the entrance of the cell block. Standing outside the house, the man named Xu examined Wang Lin once more. He revealed a smile, but the smile made his face even more eerie than before. "Brother Wang, this is the section I'm responsible for. I handpicked them all, and they're all going to be executed by January, so you can cultivate to your heart's desire. Even if you kill them all, it won't matter." Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and immediately found that there were many areas with restrictions guarding them. Wang Lin clasped his hands and said, "Many thanks." The man named Xu let out a hoarse laugh and said, "No need to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank Mo Lihai. He gave me the first 3 levels of the 10 collapse first intent, for me to let you in." He gave a meaningful look at Wang Lin before going into the black house. The first 3 levels of the 10 collapse first intent. Mo Lihai indeed paid a lot for me to enter here. Wang Lin pondered a bit before walking into this large cage. This place was like a grid with rows of cells neatly arranged. When Wang Lin walked in, the oppression from before exploded, and the shouting and roaring resumed. The shouts and roars spread out like sound wave spells. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he walked past rows of cells. Countless black hands reached out from the bars as if they were trying to catch him. At the same time, bursts of laughter came from the cells. Where did this new guy come from? Come here and let me touch you. It has been more than 10 years since I saw skin that delicate. You look exactly the same as the horror I killed before. Foreigner. Back then, I loved to kill you foreigners the most. Pairs of blood-red eyes stared at Wang Lin from behind the bars. There were various emotions and desires behind those eyes. Wang Lin coldly looked at these people. These people must not have been this crazy years ago. They became like this due to spending too much time here. If one's heart was not sturdy, they would be assimilated by the killing intent and resentment here. Not all of the prisoners were shouting. There were still some that silently sat in their cages. Newcomer, come here! A black man from a cell next to Wang Lin reached out with both his hands toward Wang Lin. When he noticed Wang Lin turn around toward him, he spat directly at Wang Lin. Wang Lin took a step back and dodged this foul-smelling spit. The black person laughed loudly. His eyes were filled with scorn. Wang Lin's expression was still neutral. Then he looked at the person and revealed a smile. He was originally going to step forward, but stopped. The completely black person saw Wang Lin's smile and couldn't help but tremble. For some reason, when he saw that smile, he felt an incredible amount of fear, and the scorn in his eyes paused for a moment. However, this was immediately replaced with viciousness. Wang Lin stretched out his right hand to a place where the person could reach and calmly said, "Come." The person was startled. He subconsciously took a few steps back and revealed a gloomy expression. Wang Lin said once more, "Come." At this moment, the shouting and roaring became even more intense. Due to the shouting of the surrounding inmates, the black person clenched his teeth as his hand formed a claw and reached out toward Wang Lin's right hand through cage bars. At the moment the person's hand reached out, Wang Lin's right hand turned into a sword and pointed at that person's palm. At the same time, a strand of slaughter energy drilled into that person. The prisoner's body trembled, and he took a few steps back. His entire body convulsed. Black blood came out of his orifices, and his face distorted like he was suffering a lot of pain. At this moment, the shouting of the surrounding prisoners became even more intense. But a second later, a miserable shriek arose from this person. This scream was like a sharp sword that penetrated all of the screaming and completely suppressed everything. At this moment, everyone nearby stopped shouting. The miserable scream didn't stop and continued. This scream was filled with intense fear, and Wang Lin looked on with indifference. The man inside the cage already had a thin body, and it gradually withered even more until he was a mummy. This mummy had his mouth open and was filled with gray gas. The gray gas returned to Wang Lin's hand. It was now a bit thicker than before. Still only one strand, Wang Lin frowned. Wang Lin was still observing. The moment the slaughter energy entered this person, it immediately began to absorb this person's life force. This included the soul, blood, flesh, and all his essence. Using the slaughter energy to kill someone can only nourish it. If I want to make it split into another strand, I'm still missing something. Missing some enlightenment. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before looking at the mummy. This person's cultivation level wasn't high, and with the restriction in his body, he couldn't display his full strength. Not just him, almost every prisoner in this prison was like this. The miserable screams stopped with this person's death, and the prison became extremely quiet. However, this silence only lasted for a moment before the shouting started once more. Only this time, it was even more explosive. Wang Lin walked toward the next cell. The person inside the cell revealed a bloodthirsty smile at Wang Lin and licked his lips as he backed away from Wang Lin and said, "Brat, you are cultivating, right? Do me a favor and kill the person opposite me, then I'll fully cooperate with you. How about it?" The person locked in the cell opposite him was a burly man. The man from the opposite cage stared at him and shouted, "I already find you displeasing to look at. Brat, if you kill him, I'll fully cooperate with you. I have been locked away in this damn place long enough. The earlier I die, the sooner I can reincarnate." Wang Lin didn't speak as he pointed at both of them. 2 blood-red dots appeared on both of their foreheads and began to spread. Both of them fell to the ground, but there was a hint of relief in their eyes. From the moment he entered here, Wang Lin could clearly feel a hint of death aura along with the resentment. At first, he thought the death aura was present because too many people had died here, but after being here for a bit, Wang Lin found that the death aura came from the prisoners. They all wanted to die, but many didn't have the courage to kill themselves. At the moment the two of them fell down, Wang Lin carefully looked at their bodies. He didn't use the slaughter energy to kill the two of them, so their bodies remained intact. But a strange aura disappeared from their bodies. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he vaguely felt like he had grasped something, but after thinking about it carefully, he was still somewhat confused. Cellular slaughter art, refining one's life force into a seal. I have cultivated and pondered this spell many times. I always feel like I gained enlightenment, but sometimes it's all a blur. Wang Lin's right hand reached out, and the burly man's body was caught by him. Wang Lin knelt down as he pointed at the hole between his eyebrows and carefully examined it. His eyebrows furrowed harder and harder. Wang Lin let out a sigh as he got up and walked toward the next cell. Following Wang Lin's footsteps, one prisoner after another died. Every time he killed one person, he would carefully look at the corpse and examine it for a long time. After 5 days, more than half of the prisoners here died. A thick death aura filled the area and didn't disappear for a long time. Wang Lin observed thousands of bodies and gradually gained a hint of enlightenment. But there seemed to be a layer of mist between him and this enlightenment. He couldn't see it clearly or touch it. What am I missing? Wang Lin pondered. Because you haven't killed enough. Your urge to kill isn't enough. The man named Xu slowly walked out from his black house. There was something different about his gaze toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin raised his head, he looked at the man named Xu, and didn't speak. The man named Xu slowly said, "Although I don't know the specifics, the spell you are cultivating should be related to slaughter, and that is why you need to cultivate here. But you still chose the wrong place, because killing here won't produce enough murder intent to create a slaughter aura. Although I have seen you kill a lot during these 5 days, most of your time was spent on researching. Sometimes, no amount of research can compare with simply immersing yourself in slaughter, experiencing the pleasure of slaughter, and gaining the killing heart." Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. "I cultivate the Demon Slaughter Dao." The man named Xu looked at Wang Lin and said, "There are 10 wardens in Hong prison, and only I cultivate the Demon Slaughter Dao. I use slaughter to refine my heart and become a demon. Carefully observe my killing heart." After the man named Xu finished speaking, his eyes suddenly became cold. Not a hint of killing intent came from his body, but Wang Lin felt like he had suddenly changed. Although there was no killing intent, Wang Lin felt all of his hair on his body stand up. His origin soul involuntarily shook, and a sense of extreme danger appeared in his heart. Then an unknown aura appeared from this person. Although this aura was not spreading, it was extremely terrifying. The man named Xu slowly said, "An already sheathed sword is sharp and can create killing intent, but it lacks a certain amount of foundation compared to an unsheathed sword. A real killing heart is an unsheathed sword. If you really want to cultivate slaughter, I can take you to a place where you should be able to experience real slaughter." Wang Lin looked at the person and said, "Condition." The man named Xu revealed a hint of admiration and said, "Help me kill the demon general named Xianxia. Don't ask me why. With my killing heart, I am evenly matched with him, but I am 100% confident in killing him in secret. However, I'm restricted and can't leave this Hong prison, and he would never enter this place in his lifetime. So, if you help me kill him, I'll help you cultivate your slaughter spell. But I have one more condition. You must kill him using the slaughter spell. Let him die to the path of slaughter." The man named Xu revealed a hint of hatred in his eyes. "If I can really complete my slaughter cultivation, then I can accept your condition," said Wang Lin in a calm voice. He purposely didn't say everything. "Follow me." The man named Xu revealed an eerie smile and turned around. "The prisons of Hong prison are just a front. The real role of the 4 prisons in Sky Demon City are to provide killing intent for the Demon Emperor's sword. That is why the bottom of the prison is where you need to go. Only there can you truly comprehend the killing heart. Wang Lin followed the man named Xu and left this place before going down another flight of stairs. The stairs seemed never-ending. They passed by many prisoners, but the man named Xu didn't stop and directly passed them all. After a long time, as Wang Lin continued to descend down the stairs, a thick smell of blood appeared. The killing intent here was 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times stronger than it was above. The passage before the stairs was no longer dark, but had a blood-colored light lighting it up. The man named Xu gently said, "I have broken the rules by leading you here, so you must not tell anyone else about this, not even Mo Lihai. This palace was created by the Demon Emperor, and it has accumulated enough killing intent to affect one's heart. Don't fight it, and instead accept it with your heart. Experience the killing intent." Wang Lin pondered for a bit. After looking at the man named Xu, he could feel the powerful killing intent coming from below. The killing intent down there was monstrous and should help his celestial slaughter art. He hadn't even gotten close, and the strands of slaughter energy between his fingers already began to move even faster. There was a slight bit of trembling coming from them. This wasn't trembling from fear, but the urge to kill. Feeling the change in the slaughter energy, Wang Lin stepped into the blood-colored light and walked down the flight of stairs.